Good afternoon, CFM. It's Coach Matt with our Wednesday workout. We're going to do our heavy deadlifts. We're going down to doubles on the deadlifts today because it is the last week before our max out week for deadlift. So this is the preliminary stuff. We're going to doubles today, and then next week will be our 1 rep max opportunity for deadlift. So let's begin with relatively long warm up. We're going to do 3 rounds through. Start with 600, then 400, then 200 meter runs. So the runs progressively get shorter. Everything else stays the same in the warm up. When you get back from the run, we're gonna do 4 reps on each leg of a teapot walking lunge. So this is kind of feels like a windmill, but it's a shorter range of motion. So I'm gonna step down into my lunge. From this lunge position, I'm gonna reach towards the knee that's down with my hips going out to the side. I'm trying not to bend my spine. I'm trying to open my hip right here. If you can plant your hand, that's great. If not, just stop wherever your hips stop. So don't continue by hunching or rounding your spine. And what you can feel is like if your hip bone and your rib cage get closer together, that means that you are bending your spine. So those two things are connected by your vertebrae. So what we would like to be is keeping that same gap between the rib cage and the hip bone, even though you are bending over to the side. And you can kind of feel that position change if you put your hands, like your thumb on the rib cage and your middle finger on your hip bone. If that gap stays the same, that means that your spine is staying straight. Okay, that's our teapot walking lunge. Next one will be a 40-foot bear crawl, so just go all the way down, hands and feet. Next one will be a PVC pipe T-spine opener. So this one, get your bench that we're gonna use for dumbbell pullovers, palms facing upward, but have a nice tight grip on the bar. What you don't wanna do is have your hands like fly away from the bar like that by rotating outward. Usually when your hands rotate out, that means that your shoulders are rotating in, and we want to keep our shoulders externally rotated for this one. But I'll start with this kind of half curl motion, and then I'm going to walk myself backwards until my head is past my arms, and then I'm just doing these PVC curls, and I'm trying to keep my elbows relatively close to each other. The more tight my shoulders are, the more my elbows are going to want to slide apart. So I'm trying to keep them anchored onto the bench and in the same spot, right? With the goal there being that all the muscles behind my shoulder are getting nice and woken up on that one. And then the last one is gonna be some pogo hops. We're gonna go forward, reverse, left, right, but when you do the pogo hops, we're trying to be really springy and bounce just from the calf, ankle, and Achilles. My knees should not bend very much, right? You're not gonna have them locked out, obviously, but you don't wanna be like compressing like a regular jump, right? You wanna only be jumping from the calf, ankle, and Achilles. And the point of all that is just lower extremity prep, getting the foot, ankle, Achilles, calf, all that stuff ready. All right, so taking that, we're gonna move into our deadlifts. Deadlift, lots of warm-ups today. There's only 5 actual work sets. It's 3-3 and then 2-2-2. The percentages are all written in SugarWOD, and they are very aggressive at the very end especially. Okay, so use your adult decision-making powers and only do the good reps, right? So there's no need to dig yourself a hole in deadlifts this week that is going to tank you for next week's lifts. So in other words, I want everything today to feel really good, right? And that's gonna set you up really well for our max outs next week. There's also no supersets today, so this one is likely to get a little bit boring because you're going to need to rest like 3-4 minutes in between sets of 2 at the percentages that are listed in SugarWOD, right? When we're finished with that, and I intend for many of you to take a large portion of the time today to do the deadlifts. So what we have finishing or after the deadlift is an untimed core and accessory set. And what you need to recognize is that somebody who's 2 rep max on deadlift that is like 137 pounds is going to need a lot less rest than somebody whose 2 rep max is like 450 pounds, okay? It's just, it takes more time to push the energy back into the muscles to recover from that type of load versus a heavy weight versus a lighter weight. So some of you guys are gonna finish, you're going to have challenged yourself, you did your right percentages, and you're gonna be rested and done by like 36 after, right? And you can go on and do these untimed core and accessory work. Somebody who is lifting a lot more weight will also be hitting their percentages, and they just need more rest in between sets, and they may only get 1 or 2 rounds done of the accessory work, and that's totally fine for today. You do the one that's right for you, okay? So our accessory work for today, 3 sets of 8 of each of these things. So strict toes to bar is the first one, and this is on whatever level of progression that you're at. But make sure if you're doing these hanging, I want to see you engage your lats, right? So I'm pulling my head back behind my arms, and I am raising my legs up to try to touch the bar in control with no momentum up and no momentum down, right? That's our strict toes to bar. If you can do a strict knee raise where you're pulling your knees up to your chest, that's good. If you can do a strict leg raise but not quite get your toes to the bar, that's also good. And then your next one down from that would be a lying leg raise with your hands grabbing the rig, and we're just, again, trying to go down slow with no momentum on those. Next one is a dumbbell pullover. So for this one, and we do this one fairly frequently, but I want to see the dumbbell hanging from your hands. So make sure you're not holding it like this, because you can't get as good of a stretch on your shoulders. So let the dumbbell be suspended from your hands, and the back of your head is overhanging the edge of the bench. As I reach over my head, I'm shrugging upward to create a little bit more room in my shoulders and trying to get my ears past my arms with my elbows straight, and then pulling back over my body and shrugging upward so that my under the shoulder muscles called the serratus anterior, those need to get really woke up on this one, right? So overhead and then pull back over the body. The next one. Okay, single leg heel tap, all right? So this can be anything from just the floor to a single plate to multiple plates to a bench, right? But all we're doing is a very short bend of the knee and then in control tapping the heel but not putting any weight on the heel. I definitely don't want to like push off the other leg. I want all the weight to be on the leg that is driving, and we're just barely bending the knee, pushing the knee forward, hitting a good stretch in the Achilles, and then squeezing back tall. So by the time you finish 20 reps of that, your leg and your glutes should be really on fire. All right, handstands and handstand push-ups is the next one. So this is just a 30-second interval, kind of like we did in the warm-up, but I want you working a little bit. If you can get into the handstand position and just hold for 30 seconds, that's our goal for today. If you want to start working on walking, like rocking your hands back and forth, that's good. If you want to do like a negative handstand push-up, that's good. If you want to do some reps of kipping handstand push-ups, that's also good, all right? Wherever your level is at for handstands, but don't drag it out past 30 seconds on that 20 seconds on that interval. And then the last one will be our band reverse squats. So for that one, I've got a lightish band around the bottom of the rig, and I'm gonna put both of my feet up through, so it's around the instep of my foot, and I'm pushing my feet apart, so I'm in a squat width stance. So I've got to stretch it a little bit. And from here, I'm just gonna tuck my knees to my chest, just get them as close as I possibly can. Make sure you've got some tension on the band before you start pulling your knees in, so that you get your hamstrings engaged from the very beginning. I'm sorry, your hip flexors engaged from the very beginning. All right, lots of detail in that one today, so take your time through it and focus on those heavy deadlifts. See you guys tomorrow.